Ben Domenech, editor-at-large of The Spectator, Fox News contributor. Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing well. A lot to talk about this week, Hugh.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you want to put first.
I want to put first what came in Ellis items this morning. President Joe Biden's job approval rating among Democrats has tumbled 11 percentage points in the past month to 75%, the worst reading of his presidency from his own party. This drop has pushed his overall approval rating down 4 points to 37%, matching his personal low. At the same time, Biden's approval rating among independents has declined 4 points to 35%, while Republican rating remains unchanged at 5%. This is Gallup, and they can be trusted. So what in the world accounts for that, Ben Domenech?
Well, I think it's a number of things, but I think what's really weighing on people is that Joe Biden himself really just does not seem up to the challenges of the moment. And I think that people have really lost faith in him on so many different counts. Really, we talk about, typically in politics, as you know, the idea that foreign policy is not a decisive matter when it comes to the direction that the country has, that people, basically are able to separate mentally foreign affairs from domestic. I don't think that that's true in the context of this presidency. I think that how much he has bungled everything over the past 2 years, really, when it comes to foreign policy, has started to really weigh down among Democrats. And I think that there's another aspect of this, too, that is going on, which is that the Democrats themselves, they want to have some hope going into the next election year. They want to have some feeling other than people are just going to vote for our guy because they hate Donald Trump or they don't trust him or they think he's a criminal or whatever. And they don't really have that. They don't have that on any real score. And I think that perfect example this week was this ridiculous foreign affairs piece by Jake Sullivan.
Oh,
That
goodness.
went to press before, everything that went down on October 7th and since. And it just shows you how much this administration is out of touch, because all the different things that are said in there, they allowed him to go back. And by the way, they never should have done this, allowed him to go back and take out and edit a bunch of different things before it went up online, and then people sort of went back and said, wait a minute, the piece that they ran was different than what he was saying before. So I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is this president always came in, with the frame that you could trust him on foreign policy. And I think that for a lot of Democrats, that's just been apparently not the case. And I also think, frankly, that the party is embarrassed by what they see happening on campuses across the country. And as much as, Republicans and independents and obviously people who favor and support Israel across the political spectrum are angered by what they see, I think that there was a feeling that Joe Biden was going to be a figure who could keep the squad in heel, that it was going to be something where that aspect of the Democratic Party was going to be pressed down against. And the Republican chaos, as much as it does embarrass the party and has been something that is a problem, it's much more condensed in the way that people feel about it on a day-to-day basis. The average person just doesn't feel that congressional sort of challenge, I think, the way that they look around at the state of things, the state of affairs in the world, and basically say, America is going in the wrong direction, our allies are going in the wrong direction, Joe Biden is nowhere to be found, and I just don't have any confidence in him anymore. I think that combination of factors is weighing him down.
And I think maybe he lost some of his hard left support in the Democratic Party because he went to Israel when they, of course, don't believe in Israel. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, Ben, about the anti-Semitism on college. I am shocked by this. All right, I expected a couple of dumb college kids to do a few dumb things in the aftermath because they don't understand what happened on 10/7. But this is not a few college kids. This is dozens of campuses and hundreds of demonstrations and much vile anti-Semitism from Cooper Union to Tulane to UCLA. How widespread is this rot? This has been the great reveal, right? This is a failure of campuses across the country and an indictment of K through 12 education, that they have not got any moral lens through which to view the massacre of 10/7.
Well, I think, for one, this is an indictment, obviously, of what these people are being taught. That's obvious. But I think that there's something more going on here. And namely, I would say that, people should not underestimate the degree to which American youth have been propagandized to about the nature of Israel by social media and TikTok in particular. Some of the things that have been shown there and that have gone viral there are really just absolutely abhorrent. And I think that we we kind of lose perspective on some of this. You know how, Hugh, we had this whole attitude, this faction of people about a decade ago who were, they were very much down on the idea that, like, oh, there's something newly wrong with these woke kids on campus, and it's just a conservative conspiracy that these people are different, and then of course that turned out not to be true. Those kids graduated, they went into the boardrooms and into the comms departments of corporations across America, and their influence and their views were applied there in ways that conservatives said, look, we were right. These kids are fundamentally different. They've been taught something fundamentally different. And this is not just an outburst that you normally see from college campuses as we've seen historically. And I think that in this case, what we are really learning is that it is much more widespread and much more effective in terms of the propagandization against Israel that has been taking place on that level. And I'll say one more aspect of this. Israel has not done itself favors in this by, I think, kind of missing this. They've focused on kind of the top-down game of influencing, politicians and political leaders, which traditionally is something that has worked to a degree for them. I think that they really sort of missed, and a lot of their supporters missed, how much the youth was being captured by this. And I will say, even on the right has tolerated a lot of people who have dabbled in this space simply because I think they've been able to pervert the anti-Middle East war message in a way that is both historically inaccurate and needed response. But a lot of people on the right, frankly, they just didn't focus on that. Their focus has been more on the political, which is meaningful, does matter, but I think that the propaganda that has taken over the youth mindset here is extremely dangerous and requires an organized pushback in order to prevent them being captured by what is essentially another branch of the decolonization tree.
I think you're right. I think Chris Rufo has spotted this, and Chris Rufo has written about it, and it is everywhere, and it's growing like kudzu. I do need, Ben, your comments on another massacre. This one in Maine, about 45 minutes from where I spend 4 or 5 months of summer. My brother-in-law lives up there, family up there. It's shocking because Maine is probably the least violent place I've lived in my 67 years, and the everybody's armed as well, right? Their guns, their per capita gun is probably up there with Montana, and it happened. Does it change the debate at all?
I don't think that it does. I do think that this is one situation where you always learn more about the different flags that could have been there for someone within our communities. And one thing that I definitely think is true, Hugh, and it has fueled some of the aspects of these shootings in recent years, is that the breakdown of community, the breakdown of awareness of what's going on in people's lives does have an impact. And whether that's shown in the form of addiction or of mental health, or whether it happens in a violent outburst of rage and villainy that leads to the deaths of people, it does have this sort of a quality of an ability to escape the attention of communities. And that's something that is, a long-running concern among many of us, on the right, that we've raised this over the years as communities have broken down and institutions have failed, particularly local churches and communities that should have been able to flag things like this in the past. So, look, I think that's all you can really say is that evil people have the capacity to do extreme amounts of damage. And yet we also need to be able to have the freedoms to own these types of weapons, because they not just for self-defense, but frankly, I think that, when we look historically, America has had, great opportunity to fight back against these types of villains, in part because of that widespread ownership. And that's the kind of thing that I think. Go ahead.
One thing that came to my attention, he had a schizophrenic break this summer, and the Army institutionalized him for 2 weeks. That didn't lead to anything, Ben. We have a minute left. I just don't know how we get people to connect dots.
Look, we don't have the kind of institutions anymore that people like that ought to be sent to. I think they need to come back, and I think that that's something that, it comes up time and again, but I really hope that someone, has the kind of, foresight to sort of say, we just have a mental health system in America that is not up to the challenge of the level of craziness that we have going on in our communities. And when people go into these things, they need to be flagged and they need to be paid attention to, because they show the risk signs that can lead directly to the deaths of our fellow Americans.
Yeah, if you're committed, as he was by the Army, for 2 weeks, that ought to be a red flag to local law enforcement about the weapons that you may own at home. I think that stunned me this morning to find out. Ben Domenech, editor-at-large at the Spectator and Fox News, contributor. Thank you, Ben. Follow him on Twitter or the site formerly known as Twitter X at Domenech.